This week in East Brunswick, with school children on vacation, it was time for Public Safety's annual bike inspection. Today we'll learn the importance of this yearly event. Also this week, we'll look in on a reading of a work in progress at Playhouse 22 and hear about an upcoming contest for aspiring playwrights. On Chris Shirley's restaurant guide, we'll visit Restaurante Alfredo in New Brunswick. On Kids Comments, Sierra Director will review Old Turtles Winter Games by Leonard Kessler. Mary Tenaccio will discuss infant furniture on Consumer Aware, and we'll wrap up today's program with our Township Council review. All coming up on This Week in East Brunswick. Stay tuned. Beginning in May, Channel 8 will be adding something new to our lineup. Read Aloud will be a joint production of the video and children's departments here at the library. On it, people from around town will be reading segments from their favorite children's and young adults books. Titles like Alice in Wonderland, Winnie the Pooh, titles from Dr. Seuss to Soroyan's Human Comedy. And those doing the reading run the gamut from children's librarians to newspaper reporters to the mayor of East Brunswick. We hope you enjoy this new feature, and more than that, hope you decide to participate by reading a story yourself. Anyone interested should call the East Brunswick Library's Children's Department at 390-6769. And be sure to look for Read Aloud beginning May 1st at 7 p.m. on Channel 8. For about 20 years, the Department of Public Safety has conducted an annual bicycle inspection. The 1984 inspection took place this week. Tuesday at Central School, I asked Officer Jack Haig why it's so important to have your bicycle inspected.
Well, from two standpoints. One from safety, which Don Clay of our maintenance department here and John Burrier are checking the bike. They check the tires, the brakes, the pedals on a bike. It should have a bell or a horn. In this case, the bike doesn't. The owner will be notified that it should have a bell or a horn on it. And the tires are checked. And anything, the seat, if it's loose, or the frame. If it fails inspection, they will be notified of the things that are wrong with the bike, and then they will have to have them corrected and be re-inspected. We will register the bike, as they're going to do now, by punching a number in the sprocket of the bike. That's a county registered number for all of Middlesex County, involving 26 municipalities. If the bike is stolen, the municipality would find it, and East Brunswick's first number would be 4. That's stamped in 4, and then whatever the digits are that follow. And this is kept a record in police headquarters and the traffic office so that the people can get the bike back. So it's really two things, safety and registration for stolen bicycles. Okay.
There seems to be a lot more bicycles on the road lately. Could you run through a few of the rules of the road, what bicyclists should do?
Sure. The main, I think the main violation of bicycles today is failure to keep right. They have the same obligations as cars, therefore they have to ride on the right-hand side the same as a car, and they should really use hand signals. It's important to let cars know what you're going to do, whether you're going to turn, stop, left or right. You have to communicate with them.
And what are the hand signals that they would use?
Well, this would be a right turn, this would be a stop, and this straight would be a left turn. All hand signals are done with the left hand.
If during the year somebody buys a bicycle, will they be able to register it anywhere in town?
Yes, at our traffic safety shop on Horse Lane at the Public Works Center, any Monday through Friday from 3 to 3:30, they can be registered and inspected at that time.
And finally, I guess you had to reschedule, or you're going to be rescheduling a rained-out inspection?
Yes, we were rained out yesterday morning at Irwin School and the Willow Street Firehouse. It was rained out yesterday morning. It will be rescheduled, and they will be notified in school, the students, when it will be rescheduled.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Playhouse 22 will be doing its part to support local playwrights this spring. They are presenting a series called Works in Progress, featuring the works of local playwrights read by the Playhouse 22 company. And they are works in progress. The purpose of the readings, in addition to entertainment, is to give the playwright a chance to see how an unfinished play comes across, a chance to see what works, what doesn't work, and what can be done to remedy any faults. Last Tuesday, the first play in the series was read. It was called Beatrice and was written by Nathan Mayer, an East Brunswick resident. Also that night, Don Gordon announced a contest for aspiring playwrights.
I'm very pleased and proud to announce tonight that the East Brunswick Arts Commission, in conjunction with Playhouse 22, are sponsoring a play writing contest. The contest is open to all residents of New Jersey non-professional playwrights, of course, who have written a full-length play of 2 or 3 acts and are over the age of 21. There'll be one winner in the contest. The winning play will be presented in a concert performance at Playhouse 22 on a date that we will announce in the future, and the press will then be invited and representatives of the theater. A reception for the winning author will immediately follow the play reading at Playhouse 22, at which time the playwright will be awarded a $100 savings bond, which will be presented by the Home News. There will also be a second and third prize, which we'll announce later. You can get the entry forms at Playhouse 22 or in the lobby of the municipal building at Gene Walling Civic Center, or by writing to Playhouse 22, 210 Dunham's Corner Road, P.O. Box 181, East Brunswick, 08816. We're really looking forward to this, and we hope you're pleased with our new announcement.
For this week in East Brunswick. Welcome again to my restaurant guide. I'm standing at 276 Hamilton Street at this beautiful Victorian mansion, better known as Restaurante Alfredo. We'd like to step inside now to speak with the owner, Mr. Alfredo de Bonis. Alfredo, the interior of your restaurant is very exquisite, and visiting antique structures has always been a personal favorite of mine. I see you have several different dining areas. Maybe you'd like to explain to me a little bit about each of the rooms.
The house is about 113 years old, and we have really 3 main parts of the house. The 2 dining rooms we're in now, which are used on a nightly basis. We have an upstairs dining room and bar, which will be used for cocktail parties and also weekend dining.
And what is the capacity of that room?
That room sits about maybe 65 people. Okay. Right now there's a piano there which will be transferred into the new room downstairs, which you see is under construction. That room will seat about 40 people and will be used for nightly entertainment and for as a bar and cocktail lounge.
We have a sketch here of the new lounge which will be opening up in the front section of the house. Now, maybe you could talk a little bit about this, Alfredo.
Well, it's about 750 square feet of new room. We'll have the piano down there.
All right, when will this be completed?
We're looking to have the room completed at the beginning of December for the holiday season.
All right, and what type of crowd do you expect?
Well, after dining in the evening, we hope to, with the piano bar, have an older crowd, late 20s, 30s, 40s, with the appropriate music and entertainment.
The capacity of the room will?
The room will hold about 40, 45 people, and the bar has 10 bar stools, plus room for standing.
This looks like it'll be beautiful.
It should be when it's finished, yeah.
Alfredo, you told me earlier that you wanted to discuss with me what you feel really makes a restaurant. Now, you told me it was not the price you pay, but the value you get for your dollar.
Yeah, I believe, Chris, that a restaurant gives value for dollar with the quality of food that is served and prepared, the atmosphere and the service all combined. We, for example, make most of our ingredients are made here. We make our own pasta, we cut our own veal.
So everything is homemade?
Everything is homemade here. We use heavy creams instead of cream sauces, which are much more expensive. We use imported cheeses, which go for like $8, $9 a pound, which are much more expensive.
So there's all natural ingredients you're using?
Very much so. So when someone comes in and orders a pasta, like fettuccine Alfredo here, he's getting real cream, imported cheese, homemade fettuccine. So for the $7.50 that he's spending on that, he's getting a better value than if he would go somewhere where it might be maybe $3 or $4, and the ingredients are not as wholesome or pure or fresh.
Well, we have 3 special dishes prepared for us today, and they are made in the traditional Italian colors, which are red, white, and green. Now, what do we have here, Alfredo?
All right, the first dish is an appetizer. It's an eggplant rollatini, eggplant fried and filled with mozzarella and prosciutto. And
now, prosciutto is?
It's Italian ham, a cured ham. The sauce is an original Roman sauce, made with imported plum tomatoes and prosciutto and pancetta. It's another Italian ingredient.
And this is the appetizer.
That's an appetizer.
Okay.
Then we
now
have
here
linguine al pesto. And pesto is a homemade sauce that we make with a puree of basil, garlic, pine nuts, oil, and that's tossed in the linguine with imported Romano and Parmesan cheese.
And the basil turns it green?
Yeah, well, that's the green sauce. The
Okay.
basil is green. And this is the main dish that we'll be preparing. And this is chicken con zucchini. Chicken bits that are sauteed in butter and prosciutto, to which we add some white wine, mushrooms, bits of zucchini, heavy cream, sprinkle tarragon on it, salt, pepper, and a little nutmeg. Okay, and then we put risotto on the side. Risotto is a Italian rice that's cooked in a broth with onions, and it's slowly cooked until the rice absorbs all of the broth, so it absorbs the flavor of that broth.
Now, would you recommend these three dishes as a complete main meal?
I would, yeah. I feel that Italian eating is done in this process. So the concept of putting a side order of spaghetti on a plate is not Italian. Okay, that's something that's more recent, I believe. Pasta is eaten as a separate course. Then you have your entree. So in the true Italian fashion of eating, I would suggest that when one comes out to eat, one enjoys it, sits down and starts with an appetizer, has a fresh pasta, goes to an entree.
But does it very slowly?
Oh yeah, there should be no rushing. It should take a good 2 hours to enjoy a good meal.
Well, we'll have to try some of it. It looks delicious.
I hope so.
Well, thank you very much, Alfredo, for letting us come into your restaurant today and speak with you and to have some of your delicious food that you made for us. And I'm Chris Shirley for This Week in East Brunswick, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks. And until then, enjoy your dining.
Old Turtles Winter Games by Leonard Kessler. Old Turtles Winter Games is a funny book about animals that everyone loves, like cats, dogs, and rabbits. The pictures in Old Turtles Winter Games are large and illustrate the story well, even though they're not very colorful. Besides being fun to read, this book helps explain the real meaning of the Olympics. It is an easy reader, so any first or second grader could enjoy reading it by themselves. If you would like to read Old Turtles Winter Games, borrow it from the East Brunswick Public Library.
Hello, and welcome to Consumer Aware. I'm Mary Tenaccio, and today I'm here to give you some helpful hints on purchasing juvenile furniture. There are hundreds of accidents every year caused by improper furniture. So today, what I would like to start with first is the baby crib, which is usually the first piece of furniture that you do buy for your baby. Buying a deep crib and making sure that all the hardware on the crib should be smooth is very important. Once the crib is less than 3/4 of the child's height, take that child out of the crib. There should be no more than 2 3/8 inches between slats of a crib, and all the mattresses should fit snugly. Now, the reason for this is that children, small children, thin children, were able to put their head between the slats of a crib and choke to death. Never put a crib next to a window or where there are any drapery or Venetian blind cords. There have been over 3,000 deaths where children have been able to take these cords, play with them, wrap them around their neck, and die of strangulation. Always be very cautious of the bumper pads in a crib where a child has chewed on them or picked on them. Pieces of plastic can fall off, and if it does get in the child's mouth, it can be sucked into the air wing and they die of suffocation. Also check the teething bar on a crib. A child will teeth on that. Make sure there are no loose pieces of plastic and that there are no rough splinters of wood. Small cribs, since 1976, must meet the same federal standards as the larger cribs. The next piece of furniture that needs a lot of thought and caution in purchasing is a high chair. When the child first goes into the high chair, it should have a very wide base for sturdiness. You should check the base to make sure that it is at least as wide as the tray area and the back of the chair. Make sure also when you're purchasing a high chair that the tray remains very secure, that it doesn't unlatch easily where fingers could get caught or a child could fall out. Another thing to check on a high chair is a good sturdy strap, and make sure that every time the child is in there that you strap him in before leaving him. Many of us know the phone rings or another sibling falls and cries, and we have a tendency to turn away, and that's when the accidents happen. Also put padding in the chair for a young child. One of the most important things to remember when a baby is in a high chair is that their brothers and sisters are not permitted to climb on that chair. There are so many accidents registered in our emergency rooms today where that has happened and a high chair has tipped over and the small child has fallen out. So it really is just good judgment and common sense. But just check for the sturdiness of the chair itself, the latches on the tray, and the strap on the chair. As the child gets older, it's time to purchase a playpen. The standards now regarding playpens are very strict. The wooden playpens with slats have the same standards as a crib. However, many people today, because of convenience sake, decide they would like the mesh playpen. Now, a couple of things about our mesh playpen. Mesh will promote climbing because it gives, so you have to be conscious of that. The other thing to watch for is the size of the holes in a mesh playpen. Most of the playpens that you see now, the holes are very small and very fine. Back a couple of years ago, your mesh holes were very large. Now, some of those may still be on the market today, but beware, because it was these playpens that caused all the problems. If a child had buttons on its clothing and tried to climb in one of these mesh playpens that had the larger holes, the buttons would get caught, the child would fall, and believe it or not, strangulation was one of the biggest problems. So when buying a playpen, make sure that it is mesh and that the holes are that very fine mesh. The other thing to be very careful of in a playpen, again like a crib, is a child will teeth. They will bite, they will chew. Most of this is all vinyl and plastic. Small pieces can be missing, small pieces can be bitten off, and it will stick in the child's throat and cause suffocation. While the baby is still young, many people tie mobiles or toys on the side of a playpen. Again, as I said before in the cribs, make sure that the string that's attached to any of these toys or mobiles are no longer than 6 inches long to keep the child from putting it around their neck. Another piece of fun equipment that we love to buy for the children is called the baby walker. This provides very good exercise for a baby, but must be carefully selected. Select a walker with a wide base, very much like you would select a high chair. Make sure that on the walker, all springs and hinges have protective coverings on them. Use these walkers only in areas where there are smooth surfaces, where there are no loose carpetings or thresholds, or even some throw rugs that we might have around. What happens here, it causes the walkers to tip over. Never allow a child in a walker near an open stairway. Always gate off the stairway, and of course, never leave a child in a walker unattended. One of the other pieces of equipment that we see today are baby packs. I don't have one here to show you, but many people use them, and there are some areas of the baby pack that we should be cautious of. One of them is, the first, when you're using a baby pack, make sure that the size of the pack fits the weight of the baby. Never put an infant in one that is too large or an older child in one that is too small and tight on its legs. Avoid a baby pack that has any exposed joints or springs. Lacerations occur and even amputations of baby's fingers. Remember, this baby pack is on your back and you are not always aware of what's taking place when the child is back there. One of the things that the Consumer Product Safety has found is that when you are in a crowd and you do have the baby on your back, they have been burned with cigarettes by other people, by careless individuals. When they're outside and you're taking a walk in the wind and the cold, there has been frostbite. So keep in mind, they're fun and they're a great way to travel with a young child. But you do have to show caution and you do have to be aware. And again, the child has to be monitored while in it. Thanks so much for tuning in to Consumer Aware today, and I hope to see you again next week.
At this week's Township Council meeting, first under priority discussion was the 1984-85 school budget. School board members were there to explain their budget to the council, who must decide its fate since it was defeated in a recent election. Board President Al Simon began the discussion.
This is a personal feeling I've had for many years that I find very difficult in our community, and that is that even as this year 3 candidates were elected successfully to the Board of Education, all of whom supported the budget. In spite of that, somehow our citizens find ways to not reflect that same support for them to do the job that they were asked to do. I do, again, want to point out to you, and I'm sure you're well aware of it, that without sounding out of order, it is one of the narrowest defeats we've had, which I think is a significant factor in the history of this township and its history with budget defeats. The next to last point I want to make is something that I think is highly significant. Some of you, we've had conversations, and I think it's a highly significant point to keep under consideration in this discussion. The unique thing about this budget this year is that it is over $1 million under cap. I, for one, do not profess great expertise on the budget process as such or the cap process, but I do know that the way the law is written at the present time, it is a very damaging law in terms of boards of education who strive to do a very efficient job in conjunction with their administration. The more efficient job you do, the more punished you are in subsequent years. The way the law is written, by the fact that we will go with the present budget at the present time, $1 million under cap, has the inevitable effect of having a very damaging effect on us next year and in subsequent years.
Following a presentation of the actual figures involved in the school budget by Jean Poquette, council members asked a few specific and not so specific questions.
Why we're gathered here is to find out where the Board of Education might feel would be prudent for some cuts to take place, and that's really what we're looking for, is to find out what your feelings are about the budget. And anybody who wishes to come in and volunteer any information. I don't hear any volunteers.
Jerry, I'll respond to your question, but not in the form of volunteering a suggestion.
Well, how should I take it then?
Well, listen to it and take it as you will. I, along with the rest of the board, voted on the budget about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and because I believed that it was the budget that we ought to go with, I voted for it, along with the majority of the board. I was or should have been aware of every nickel that was in the budget, and believed that those nickels, which added up to some $30 million, all belonged there. If I thought some part of it should not have been there, I would have made a motion to remove some part of it at that time before we voted on it. I would assume that the majority of the board also felt that way, and that's why the budget was passed by the board. Now that we're a few weeks after the election, that judgment hasn't changed, and my judgment is that the money that the board deemed fit to put into the budget at that time is the money that we deem fit should stay in the budget.
Okay, just a comment. There is $67,000 in the budget for the kindergarten program that is not taking place. Is that correct?
When we voted to leave that money in the budget, when we adopted the budget, which included that money, we already knew that that pilot program, that money was earmarked for, was not going to occur. We also said that we weren't sure how we were going to modify, if at all, the kindergarten program. We also said that we did not know what the actual kindergarten enrollment would be, and we felt it was prudent to leave that money there for that reason. And that hasn't changed. That money was placed in the budget and left in the budget knowing what the status of the kindergarten program is, and that hasn't changed between then and now.
Put you on the spot. If you had to make a cut, if you have to make a cut, would that be one of the areas that you would offer?
I'll respond by saying the law doesn't say that I have to make a cut. The law says that you have to review the budget, and the law says that you don't have to make a cut either.
At next Wednesday's meeting, the Council will have to decide which areas of the budget, if any, will be cut. Later at this past week's meeting, a proclamation announcing National Consumers Week was read. Adrian Eisner and Mary Tenascio of the Township Consumer Affairs Office were there to accept the proclamation and the thanks of the Council. That's all for this week. Thanks for watching.